Hey friends and neighbors, this is Chuck out at Sheraton Park Farms. Welcome back to the farm. So you're thinking about getting into pastured poultry. Actually, you've decided. You don't care what the spouse says, you're going to do it. And you're watching all the videos on YouTube and you're trying to figure out, okay, do I want to use this Salatin style pen or do I want to try that John Suscovich style chicken tractor? Well, today I want to talk about the numbers, what it's going to cost you to build them, how many chickens you can keep in them, the pros and the cons of the two different styles of pastured poultry housing. So hang out with us for a little bit. Let's go over all that and help you decide which one of these is going to be best for you on your farm or your homestead. Okay, so we're going to start with the Salatin style pen. And we built two of these last year and we used them for a couple different batches of birds. We used them for a couple different things. So there's a little versatility there. So we went by the Polyface Designs book, and if you've not got this, I'll post a link in the description down below. You get them over on Amazon. This is the playbook. This is the materials list, how to build it, your cut sheets, everything is in here on how to do a lot of the different shelters and structures that Polyface uses on their farm. But the broiler shelter is the very first thing that's included in the book. This is the playbook. This is how you do it. So the only asterisk that I'm going to mark next to this is going to be on the roofing material. The book recommends a corrugated aluminum style roofing. I can't find that anywhere, just cannot find it. So we ended up going with a vinyl corrugated roofing material that is super lightweight. It doesn't weigh anything. So it's not like steel or tin or anything like that. It doesn't add any weight to the shelter, and that's the primary concern in the book talking about the roofing material. So I think we're good. We should be good there. This is a 10-foot by 12-foot shelter. 1.6 square feet per bird. It's going to put you 75 birds in these shelters. So you can keep 75 birds in a Joel Salatin style pen. Now, how much did it cost us? Went to Lowe's.com this morning, put all the materials in there, screws, nuts, bolts, chicken wire, wood, the whole deal. Everything is in there. So this is the materials that you're going to need to build the chicken tractor, to build the broiler pen. It's going to cost you about $305, give or take a few cents, about $305. So if you divide that out by that very first batch of birds that you do, it's going to cost you about $4.06 per bird to build this for one batch of chickens. All right, so this is the John Suscovich style chicken tractor, and this is the one that we actually started with. John has a book, kind of like the Polyface book, only it's just for his chicken tractors. Cut sheet, materials list, how to put it together. There's some tips and tricks on raising pasture poultry in the book. I'll post a link in the description down below. Go over and pick up one of John's books. Fantastic little resource on pasture poultry. So we went over to Lowe's.com using the material list in John's book, and we figured all that up together. To build a Suscovich style chicken tractor is going to cost you about $388 to build one of these. So it is more expensive than the Salatin style pen. Now in John's book, he recommends 30 birds per tractor. If we use the same stocking density that Salatin uses in the Polyface design, you can get 37 in here. We typically will run 35. So based on John's stocking density, it's going to cost you about $12.90 per bird to build one of these for one batch. If you're using the Polyface stocking density, it's going to be about $10.50 or so to build one of these per bird for that first batch. Now, it is smaller, holds fewer amounts of birds, a little more expensive, but I know that's a con, but let's kind of compare and contrast the two different styles and talk about some of the pros, some of the cons that we found in our experience with using the Salatin pen and the Suscovich pen. All right, so let's talk about some of the pros for the Salatin style pen. First off, it's big. It's big, Andy. You can keep 75 birds in one of these Salatin style pens compared to only about 35 in a Suscovich. So twice the number of birds in this compared to the Suscovich style. It's cheaper to build. So your per bird cost is going to be a whole lot less than the Salatin style pen. It is very efficient. If you are running 75 birds, you can move 75 birds in one move, as opposed to you'd have to move two Suscovich style tractors to move the same amount. So from an efficiency standpoint, this is the tractor that you would want. If you're wanting to do big batches of birds and you're trying to get through your morning chores quickly and that kind of thing, then the Salatin style pen is probably what you're going to want to go with. All right, let's talk about some of the pros on the Suscovich style chicken tractor. First off, they're super easy to move, and you don't have to have an extra piece of equipment to move them. It does have some wheels that go in the back on the axles. They pop off and on really easy. Super simple to move. They're also nice and tall. These things are about a little over 5 feet tall, so for somebody a little bit more experienced like myself, they're easy to get into if you need to work on a feeder. If you've got a sick or dead bird and you need to get in there, you don't have to get down on your belly and crawl. You can just walk right in and get what you need to out of it. Multi-purpose. They also work great for other stuff. We've used them as piglet brooders in the past. We've put heat lamps in there with some hay, some juvenile baby pigs that had been weaned off their mom, need a little heat support. With the tarp over it, windbreak, man, they worked fantastic for that kind of thing. You also could use them if you were in a small neighborhood or backyard. You could use one of these as your chicken coop. Mount you some nest boxes in there. You're only going to want to put, just a few chickens in there. Move them around your yard every day so they can scratch around for bugs and that kind of thing. You can use it as a chicken, just a regular chicken coop for your egg birds. So the versatility on these is really nice. Also, on catching day, when it comes processing day and you're getting ready to go in and catch those birds, these doors are the perfect size for those standard chicken crates. You put the crate in the door, it fits in there perfectly. You're inside catching birds, stuffing them in the crates. You don't have to walk out, you don't have to hand them out, you don't have to crawl out and hand them off to somebody else or crawl out and put them in the crate. Everything's right there at you, super easy to get to. So there's a lot of versatility in the Suscovich style chicken tractor. All right, let's talk about some of the cons on the Polyface broiler shelter. And before I get into this, before I get into the cons on either one of them, I want to make a little bit of a couple disclaimers. First off, we started out with the Suscovich tractors, so we've got a lot more experience with those than we do with the Polyface design. We built 2 of these last year. We used them on a couple different batches of birds. We used them for some other things, so I feel like we've given them a good fair shake. This is not at all meant to be disparaging towards Joel or Polyface. We appreciate their methods. We follow 99% of what they do. This is just on this particular piece of equipment and our experience in it. So, it kind of is what it is. So, first off, in our opinion, these things are hard as the devil to move. You got to have a dolly. You got to build the dolly. Now, I'm not a welder, so I ended up buying the materials, taking it to the local high school, and the welding class put this thing together for me using the design in the book. So this is the dolly that Joel recommends that you use. But still yet, you got to have this to break that ground contact on the back side of your pen. It's a booger and a bear to move. You're going to need flat ground, no holes, and low grass. When we were using these last year, we were out here on the meadow. It's nice and flat out here. And in most cases, we were running it whenever the grass was mowed down because of the cows. They still were just, oh man, they're terrible to move. We were getting birds caught. We were running over birds. We were taking our time. I mean, just everything. The movement piece did not work near as well as what it does on those Suscovich style. So you got to have the dolly, and the moving is aggravating. Secondly, I'm an older guy, and getting down on my hands and knees to crawl in this thing to get a dead bird out or to work on something or even to catch birds is daggone near impossible. I had to hire a fellow that I work with, his kids, to come over, get down on their hands and knees and get in this thing and crawl around and catch birds, because I can't do it. I mean, it's 2 feet tall. My knees don't work anymore. So that is an unfair advantage that Polyface has. They do have an army of 20-somethings that are interning and working on the farm, and I'm sure they're the ones that are down on their hands and knees that are catching these birds. So those were the primary cons for us. Another con is these lids. So the lids are not attached, so you got to wrestle those things off and wrestle them back on, and even if you're lifting them up, you got to lift them up and try to fetch the feeder out, and lift them up and try to fetch the feeder back in. So I mean, it's just, they're super difficult to get your feeders and get your feeders into. Something else we discovered, and I'm not understanding this. I've watched a ton of videos on these things from Polyface proper, and it looks to me like they're only using 1 feeder in these things and 1 drinker. Y'all, that don't work. if you're going to use one feeder and one drinker, you're going to have to do chores at least twice a day. So you're either going to need to do 2 feeders, 2 drinkers, or you're going to have to do chores twice a day, because we were putting a full long, I think they're 6 feet long feeders full in these things, coming out the next morning, and you would have thought those birds were starved to death. They absolutely were just ravaged for the feed. I mean, they were going crazy over the feed. When you would put it back in there, you couldn't even get the feeders back in. The drinkers, 1 5-gallon bucket. 1 5-gallon bucket was not doing those birds for a day. We were having to water them at least twice a day, and in the heat of the summer, sometimes as many as 3 times a day. So chores were a little bit more intense on these in terms of the amount of time that we had to spend, because we were having to come back and do stuff twice, or we were running 2 feeders and we were having to wrestle those in and out. So the lids being on these things, having to get that in and out, and then the feeders. So those are the cons. Movement, the lids, I don't particularly care for the lids. And then you're going to have more feeders and drinkers than what I think it looks like those guys are using whenever you're watching videos and seeing them raise chickens on their farm. All right, cons on the Suscovich style chicken tractors. First off, there was another pro I want to mention that's a con on the Salatin style. When you're moving these, you can see the birds. You can actually see them as you're walking backwards. You can see what they're doing. In that Salatin pen, you can't see the birds as you're moving them. So again, we were running over them. Cons on these: the tarps. We can get about 2 seasons out of a tarp. Sometimes 1 season, depending on the quality of tarp that we end up buying, or if we have a lot of wind or bad weather. The tarps need to be replaced every so often. So that is a little bit of a recurring expense, is those tarps. Second, and this is really the only other con that I can think of on these, they're small batch. 35 birds at a time, so you're going to have 2 of these for every one of your Salatins. Square footage is going to be about the same. These are 60 square feet, the Salatins are 120 square feet. So you're going to have twice the amount of tractors to be able to do the same amount of birds. So it's a small batch kind of deal. Again, other than that, I really don't see very many cons in this. They're not very heavy. They're easy to move. I mean, they're very versatile. There's a lot of pros. So again, I'm not being disparaging towards either or, but we've got a lot of experience with these, and these Suscovich ones are the ones that we've chosen to use. And quite frankly, they're probably going to be the ones that we're going to continue to build on this farm as we need more chicken tractors. Okay, there's a little bit of an overview on the different styles of the chicken tractor, the Suscovich versus the Salatin style. The big recommendation that I would make to you is, if there's somebody in your town, your neighborhood, across the county, wherever it is, that is doing pastured poultry, that you can go get your hands on either one of these, whether it's a Suscovich or whether it's a polyface design, go do that. Put your hands on them. Call them up. Hey, can I come help you do chicken chores one day and just get a little bit of experience with your shelter style, the style shelter that you're using? Go do that. Get your hands on them. Get you some practice in before you invest your money in building either a Suscovich or a polyface. Try to get some experience with both of them. I think it's going to do you well. I hope that we've been able to give you some advice today and share with you our experience on the different styles and what we like and what works for us. The nice thing about either one of these, whichever one you're going with, is you build one, you do a batch of birds, you like it, you sell those birds, you make a little money, you can build you another one and just keep rolling your cash back over. These are low cost, low barrier to entry if you're interested in getting started in pastured poultry. Cancel your Netflix subscription, dig your spare change out of your couch, skip Starbucks for a month, and you'll have enough money to build one of these, either one. So good way to get started, low barrier to entry, and I think you'll find that the chicken's a whole heck of a lot better too. But anyway, like we always say, please keep us in your prayers. May God bless you and your families, and we'll see you on the next video. Thanks. Cons of each one of the try it again with poultry. So spin. This tractor is 10 foot by 10 foot. Is that right? 10 by 10, 10 by 12. What is it, Chuck? I can't remember. I want to shoot this again. Work. I need to do that again. Bigger batch of birds. I forget what I'm talking about here. It's about the 18th time I've tried this. It's going to work this time. I know it is. Well, hey friends and neighbors, this is Chuck out at Sheraton Park Farms. Welcome back to the farm. So you're thinking about getting into